Hey, how you motherless fucks all doing out there? This is Joey, aka the Hungry Guido, and you're listening to the Italian Sicilians Do It Better podcast.
Italian Sicilians do it better. Oh, can't you see? From cooking to comedy, it's pure family. Turn it up. This groove's for you. Queens in the house, bringing something true.
What's going on, everyone? We're back with another one. Finally, a good friend of mine joins us on the couch. Joey Remo is in the building. What's going on, bro?
Feels like 10 years has went by since the last time I was here, you know?
Yeah, man.
I say it was 10 years.
Look,
Right?
you definitely had some things going on,
Yeah,
and we almost had you here,
yeah,
but we connected in a good way where it's like I felt like I known you for like 20, 30 years.
absolutely.
So-
100%.
It's like the girlfriend that became an ex, but you're still friends with them. It's kind of like
not
that.
really,
Well, I mean,
not really.
Listen, I'm just saying, if he wants to hold hands, we could do it.
No, it's like we're still in love, you know?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, something was separating us. That's all it was.
We just don't touch lips.
Exactly.
Well,
We break the spaghetti right before the lips. You know?
No, but Joe, thanks for coming. I mean, I know we connected, and it's like you're like a friend I've known for a long time, and having you here is important to me because I love to share the experience and stuff.
And to be honest with you, you know I really don't do podcasts like that. So for me, this is very new, but I feel comfortable because it's with you guys, so I'm very happy.
Why is it you want to do podcasts? Is it not your thing, or
To be honest with you, the reason why I really haven't gotten to like the whole podcast thing is because I really haven't had the ability to do them. If you want me to be completely honest, like when we went and tried to do the podcast the last time, you know, I wound up getting sick. Couldn't finish the podcast. It was like a total wreck on my end, not you guys. And from there, it's been, you know, like walking through hell since then. So now I'm starting to get a little bit better. You know, the first podcast I wanted to come on since I got better was you guys, obviously.
appreciate that?
And, you know, just share a little bit of my story with everybody.
So you're saying, do you want to tell the people what happened or what you've been going through?
So basically, I got penis reduction surgery. And
nice. I took the leftover.
No,
And you gave the rest to Marcus.
That's it.
The inch and a half I gave to Marcus.
All
No,
right.
but basically I had a lot of stomach issues. And then while they were trying to fix the stomach issues because I have Crohn's disease, they found a hepatic aneurysm next to my liver. So this past September, I had to go in for like a 17-hour surgery. I was in there for 33 days. I felt like I was dying. I couldn't
Wow.
eat. I couldn't do anything. So, you know, now since I'm finally, you know, getting myself together now, I'm able to come back out here, see you guys, and do some things like a half a human, you know?
Yeah, it's like we were saying earlier. It's yes, it's 2 years you haven't been here,
Yeah.
but we've met in between in places.
Yes.
But I'm glad you're doing better. You've been through so much. It's insane that you finally out and you're enjoying some life.
Being a human, you know, I felt like I was in like fucking lockup or something like that, you know? But it was,
But it was
just through hell.
necessary. It was necessary, dude.
It was absolutely necessary because if I didn't get what I got done, I would be nowhere near where I am today. So, you know, God has everything happen for a reason, and I'm just grateful to be able to walk his path and share, you know, a little bit of my life with the world, you know?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know what's funny, though? Because now you went through that.
Yeah.
Joe, why don't you tell us how our healthcare system is, considering?
Our healthcare system. Did you ever throw shit on top of more shit? You know, like
because when you were telling us your process of what's going on and how long it took, I said, this is fucking insane.
yeah.
For some, that's life-threatening. Let's just put it like that.
Technically, I was supposed to be in 2024.
Mm.
And since the surgery was so big, the people that were originally prepping to do the surgery up in Hackensack told me when we were about to schedule the surgery, like, hey, listen, I was talking to a couple of different surgeons, and we feel that we would want you to go somewhere where there was a liver transplant specialist. Because if, God forbid, something happens, because it was the area was so close to my liver that if something would have happened to my liver in the hospital in Hackensack, I would have probably more than likely died. So they wanted me to go to NYU. And since I started all over again at NYU, I had to go through the whole process, all these different CAT scans, all these different tests. They were fucking putting things on my legs, my arms, my head. I didn't even know what the hell was going on. So that took about a year. And then finally, like a week before I went for surgery, I seen you out in Jersey.
We met up in Staten Island, was it, or Jersey?
No, it was Jersey,
Jersey.
because I think your wife had to go do something.
Yeah.
Right? So we met up over there. We hung out, got a quick bite to eat. And then the next week I was in there. The surgery was only supposed to last like
You told me like 8 hours,
8 to 10 hours.
and he was there for 17.
Yeah, like my wife, my sister, just my family overall. You could text doctors and whatnot now while you're in
can?
surgery. Yeah, it's crazy. They have like a big monitor in front of the surgeon area where it shows you if you're still under, if you're in recovery. It's like,
Wow.
yeah, NYU got some really good doctors. They literally saved my life. So 8 hours comes, I'm still under, they see. 10 hours, now my wife's starting to get nervous, my sister and everybody. And they wind up contacting them like, hey, what's going on? And they're like, it's it's very involved. Unfortunately, it's going to be longer than what it was. So when they got done with the hepatic aneurysm part, they had to do exploratory surgery to make sure that my intestines were fine because of the Crohn's. And then after that, they had to take like 3 hernias and get them taken care of. So it was like 3 different types of surgery in one. So I can't complain,
So a question, because I think it's important, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that go through something.
Yeah.
How was it, like, so many years, living with something that's stopping you from being you? And then, obviously, because we talk daily, basically, is when you go into these situations, you're so drugged up, and it's not because you want them. You need them because of the type of surgery, what you're going
The
for.
pain, X,
and,
Y.
and how a lot of people come out with addictions.
Yeah.
And you know how to shut that down, and you know how to reset, and
Yeah.
because that's probably not something easy a lot of people could do. So what could you talk to us about? Like what was in your mind, and what did you do in those periods?
Basically, because this isn't the first surgery I went through, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I've been through a lot of them. You know this, Frank. And every time I came out of surgery, I was usually in the hospital for like 3 weeks before then because they were emergency surgeries. So they had me sitting there 3 weeks, getting everything ready, literally in the hospital, drugged up off of dilaudid fentanyl, everything. And a month and a half goes by after surgery. You come home
Happens again.
and you're literally fully addicted now. So you literally just fight it. So you'll get like attitudes, like out of nowhere, you'll get like a little attitude and shit like that.
Flare-ups.
Yeah, it's like anything that you're addicted to. You get, irritable, annoyed very easily. And for me, the first 2 weeks of coming out of the hospital is the worst because I'm not that type of person to take drugs like that. So the moment that I feel that I don't have to take a pain medicine, it's gone. And then you deal with, the withdrawals.
Yeah, so you're doing detox every time you go home.
Literally.
Yeah.
So 2-3 for like the last 5-6 years, 2-3 times a year, I'm literally beating addiction every single time I come out of the hospital because they got me just on one medicine, dilaudid 2-3 milligrams every 8 hours, plus the fentanyl, plus ketamine they had me on. I was seeing fucking pigs with top hats and no mouths and eyes. You ever seen those like cartoons with the pigs back in the day?
Yeah.
All that shit. Yeah.
I want to see it, too.
was-
You got some of that familiar?
Trust me, that fucking shit. I'll never want ketamine again. But hey,
Well,
listen.
there was a story he told me once that he thought he was watching TV, but the TV's off.
Yeah.
First time
And
I
the
ever
nurse
had.
thought he was bugging out.
Yeah, this girl is in the room with me, right? This I'm talking about like over 25 years ago. So it wasn't my wife, some girl, whatever. And I'm sitting there. They give me a blue pill. At the time, I didn't know what it was, and it wasn't for a hard on. Put it that way.
All right.
It was a Perk 30, and I didn't know anything about because I wasn't really into any of that stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So I take the pill. Like 20 minutes later, I'm just zoned out, hitting the channel, and the girl says to me, "Joey, are you all right?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm trying to find something on TV." She was like, "Yeah, but you don't have the TV on. So how are you finding something on the TV?" That's how those drugs are very intense.
Oh yeah.
So for somebody that had to go through that, you know, I'm just very grateful to God that he kept me strong through it all, because if it wasn't for him, I would not even be here. I would have been dead in my teen years because of all the things that I went through.
And me and you had conversation about this because I told you straight out I would have gave up, man. After all this crap, I don't know, you know,
It's
religious.
easy,
Listen,
but Marcus, it's easy to say, but when you're going through it,
no, I
come
know
on.
when you're going through it, and to stay and to what I'm saying is to stay faith with all this shit. That's again the test, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that the test? I would have failed that test. I would have just said whatever happens.
I'm going to
happens
be
at this point.
completely honest with you.
Go ahead.
I've always been close to God. I always said my prayers before bed. I always said my prayers before I ate, but I was never this close to God. The way I got close to God was because of all the trials and tribulations that I went through that brought me closer to him. Because if I didn't get close to him, I would literally just give up. And that's really what it comes down to. Sometimes things happen to bring you closer to who he is than really try to bring you away. Because if I wasn't sick, you know, the people that I was hanging out with doing dumb stuff like everybody else in this world, I would have been probably in jail, could even be dead from some of the stuff that was going on. So for me, even though the illness, you know, I had to sacrifice a lot from it, it was honestly a blessing because it protected me from myself. So I don't look at these things. In the beginning, I did. I was very bitter. I was very angry. Why did this happen to me? I remember one time I was on my way home with my wife, and I was so mad because of how sick I was. This chain, I got like a couple of them on, but this chain right here, I was in the front seat. My wife was driving. That's how sick I was. We were driving home from work. Barely could make it through work. And I took the chain, broke it, and threw it in the car and said, F him. And was really that mad because I didn't understand. Because I know that I'm a good person. What the fuck is this all happening to me for? You know, you're stripping me from everything. But when I realized what he was doing was he was stripping me away from everything that I didn't need. And he renewed me in a place where I could be a better person. So, yeah, it did definitely suck, but he made everything, you know, so much. God made everything so much better, you know.
I just think it's amazing, you know, how you're taking it well, and you, like, even though you knew it was pulling you one way,
Yeah,
just the pain itself and the numbers of surgeries, and that's
I had that loop ileostomy bag twice. I had about 7-8 surgeries, and 5 of them were emergency from blockages and every other thing. So, you know, I could have died a few times, and I almost died a few times from this. So for me, every day is a major blessing. Even the day when I'm not doing anything and I'm just sitting in my house existing, I know that that's the biggest gift that I got that day, because nobody knows what could happen tomorrow. I could be gone. So, you know, and that could be for anybody. So we got to try to live our life in our best way that we possibly could. Not for somebody else, but for ourselves. Because if we take care of ourselves, everything else will be good. But once we stop taking care of ourselves and we start worrying about this, worrying about that, instead of giving it to God, then everything falls apart. In my opinion, you know, I would be terrible handling things. I'm a shit show. So, you know, for God to come in and rescue me from what I went through, you know, I really can't complain.
I live on bitterness and resentment. That's my lifeblood at this point. I realized that.
You said why?
I live on bitterness and resentment. That's my lifeblood. That's what keeps
I
me
thought it
going.
was gummies and jerking off.
Jerking off, not so much gummies anymore.
We enjoy our Sunday sauce. He enjoys his Sunday
Sauce.
No, listen. You know, I'm very grateful for it. And at the end of the day, you know, I'm sitting here with you guys talking about what's very near and dear to me.
Yeah,
The
man.
half part that I'm Italian, you know.
Well, look.
So for everybody,
Mm.
I'm half Italian. That's why I got the Irish beard. The other half is German and Irish. So the good side is Italian. And I'm three different types. I'm Napoli Don, Calabrese, and Sicilian.
Get the trifecta. That's what
So
Marcus
yeah,
calls
so
it.
I'm all fucked up. I got
That's
anger
3
problems.
strikes.
I got
That's 3
anger problems, and I got an alcohol problem. You know what I mean? So no, I'm only joking. Yeah, so that's basically because you get all of these people. Oh, I thought you looked different when I post up my video. I thought, what the fuck did you think I was?
A fucking homunculus, bro. What the fuck?
What did you think I was? Mel Gibson behind the fucking? I'm Joey. You know, like I got the Irish beard. Do you dye your beard?
Yeah, fire red. What the
No.
fuck?
You also have that distinctive, deep. I always tell you a radio voice type.
Yeah.
So people may also not seeing you physically may think,
Bro, he's our local newscaster, bro. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, listen, I love to bring, you know, local news, well, world news,
Right.
you know, weather and obviously cooking and things like that. But yeah, you have told me several times, you know, you got that radio voice. So for me, it's just, you know how many times people tell me, oh, you're extra gating your accent or you're faking. I couldn't fucking fake this accent if you paid me to.
Yeah.
You know, so for me, it's like,
you're you.
yeah, I'm being me. And a lot of people, which I understand because it's social media, a lot of people aren't really who they are. For me, I don't know how to be anything else.
What you see is what you get.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I'm not going to lie. I'm sure I rub people the wrong way, but that's okay. If you're everybody's cup of coffee, that means that, you know, you're not, you're being somebody, you're fucking somebody over some way, somehow. So the people that gravitate to me, I'm very grateful for. I even pray for them. They follow me. I appreciate all the support from all my followers. And the people that don't follow me, they could go to fucking hell. No, I'm only joking. I pray for them too. And I don't wish nothing bad on anybody. Because at the end of the day, everybody's going through their own path. We all got our own problems. And not everybody's going to be your cup of tea. But does that mean that you want to see somebody do bad? No. Not me. You know, I want to see everybody do good. And
So-
that's just the truth.
So obviously, we've met through social media.
Yes.
We connected through
The
social
dating
media.
site Grinder.
Grinder. It was Christian Mingles.
Yeah, Christian Mingle, yeah. Exactly.
I was praying and I seen your video and I was like, oh my God.
But I wanted to rewind a bit.
Yeah.
Where did this start for you? Where did you coming on social media? Because TikTok was your first platform that took off, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So, and I know now you pivoted for certain reasons, but it actually benefited you for the change.
Yeah.
Give us a little bit. How did the Hungry Guido come upon?
So basically what happened was back in like 2015, I was underneath my own name, Joey Remo. And I was posting about everything, about political stuff, you know, life. And at that time, they were shadow banning people. So my page was like
Frozen.
but at the time I really wasn't doing it for that. I was doing it for, you know, the people that follow me, my family and my friends. And I'm sitting here basically a couple of years into it, and I'm like, maybe I should try to do something more serious about it, because I'm getting, my wife telling me I should get more serious about it, cousins and whatnot. They're like, yo, you're going to blow up if you do. And I was like, maybe God has me sitting here right now in this position for me to, take this a little bit more serious. So I started the Hungry Guido page just to start something just totally new. And what it originally was supposed to be was reviews about food and what I cook.
Because you sure know that he barbecues like a
No,
son.
I know he does. Yeah.
I'm pretty good with cooking and things like that, and I'm really good with the reviews. People like them. But once food was taken away from me, basically, because all I could eat for the past 3 fucking years was bread, and water, I couldn't do any reviews. Matter of fact, some of the reviews that I was doing, right? I would do the review, and when I got home and I would taste certain things, I would have to take a bite, taste it, and then basically spit it out.
Yeah, you do
Because
like
if I ate it, I would have went to the hospital because it
Oh
would have
my
fucked
God.
me up that bad. So I didn't want to lie to people and tell them, hey, listen, it's good stuff and it's crap. So what I would do is I would taste it, give it away, the rest of it or whatever. But I couldn't even eat the stuff. So now I'm sitting here sick in my house.
Yeah.
I can't cook. I can't do anything. Do I let the page die out, or do I just do what I was doing with my original page?
Right.
What I originally wanted to do. Food, life, news,
Some comedy,
sports,
right?
Comedy. Just me, literally just me. That's what I was doing with Joey Remo. Once I started to pivot towards something serious, I tried to mix it up, and it wound up working for me, because the page would have died if it depended on just food.
Yeah.
So like I was telling you, I was like, I don't know what I should do. Should I change my name? You're like, no, you're hungry for everything. You're hungry for the news. You're hungry for food. You're hungry for it all.
He wanted to change his name. Like, you nuts?
Yeah.
And I did for like 6
Yeah.
months, and it fucking totally shot everything down. Like, people were like, where did you go? Just because I switched my name, they didn't even look at my picture. They're like,
Yeah.
where are you? So, you gotta like dibble and dabble to see what works.
My all-time favorite video of yours, and I could watch it even today if it pops up,
What?
is when you pull the refrigerator door off its hinges, and it just
That was
fell off.
Fucked up, man.
And he's just carrying it inside. He's like, what do I do with this shit
Yeah,
now?
because to be honest with you, I was in total fucking shock. Like total shock.
And his wife just happened to be recording him.
Yeah.
She was walking in because she hears me talking shit.
And she records you when you do that.
Yeah. So she knows automatically to start, recording. Like, one of my personal things is I hide the camera from her.
Mhm.
Because everybody's like, oh, why don't you? Because if
She knows.
if I hold the phone in front of her, she's gonna know.
Yeah.
I like realistic shit. So it's hard for me to come up with skits because I don't think like that. So the only way I could show you funny stuff is by candid shit, like, holding it like where she can't see it. I'll talk to her about something that we were just talking about, and she'll be like, but I don't want to. And then it starts into something big, and it winds up, being funny. So if I could, I would do skits or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like I can't even think about them. It's like weird,
Can you take me back? There was one video you did, had me and G fucking rolling. The guy who was cooking with the curl, he always wears white, and he says things in a funny way. And you called him a fucking this Irish troll or whatever because you tried to say some Italian food word that he was making.
And then I wind up saying it wrong.
Yeah. No, but the thing is, when you were ripping into him, and you even said that his friends even contacted you, like, no, he's doing that on purpose.
Yeah.
What the fuck was it though, bro?
It was prosciutto.
I thought it was prosciutto. I thought it. Yo, how funny was that?
He kept on calling it
I remember that.
Prosciutto.
Prosciutto. Yeah, that's
And
the
I'm like,
one.
what the fuck are you saying?
Yo,
It's like it's prosciutto.
Bro, the fucking rolling out insult that you had for him, bro. And I heard the visceral anger come out of you, bro. It made me fucking die laughing, bro.
I kind of understand
This leprechaun bastard.
how people like you feel. Like, I'm telling you, because
You took that shit
personal.
I'm straight up honest. Compared to like some like Italian Americans, they would call me a metagon because I don't know how to speak the language. That's not my fault. You
Right.
know, like that happened from generations in the past. Like my grandparents on my mother's side, because that's the Italian side,
Mhm.
would argue in Italian so my mother wouldn't know what was going on.
Right.
So they never taught her or taught my uncle Italian.
Mhm.
So how the fuck am I gonna learn it?
No,
you know what I
right,
mean?
right.
So for me, yeah, certain things I'm real Americanized in, but the culture, the love and the blood is legit. You know, like
Yeah.
my great grandparents came here, started a farm in Staten Island, had one of the biggest farms in Staten Island, basically from Victory Boulevard all the way out towards the mall. You know, like we were really like the old school Italian way. Jar.
Oh, they owned a big
All-
portion of that then.
We actually still have a big farm in South Jersey. It's called Bifocal Farms. They deliver from the whole entire East Coast, Canada, and things like that. So it's very like we're very like, you know, old school with certain things, but you know, I was a poor kid living in some of the poorest places in Staten Island. So, you know, I just naturally am diverse in certain ways, I would say, you know?
You know where to pivot.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes.
That's how you say that.
All the jarred tomato sauces. You know, my mom still talks about it till this day. She gets aggravated that we don't do it. And I'm like, well, you didn't fucking teach us it, so how are we gonna do it? Now you see it all over the place because she goes on TikTok, she's scrolling through.
You can see
She's
millions.
like, they're doing everything we used to do. Well, why didn't you fucking teach me then, you old broad? Now, you know what I mean? Like, yo, you fucking took out half of my heritage, you know? Like, so it is what it is, but
I wonder, would you ever give it a shot one year?
what?
Making tomato, jar it up.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If, you know, I know you have to boil it and then you know, grind
Process.
it down and, you know, let it sit out there.
Right,
and
yeah.
I think for tomato paste, they let it sit out in the sun.
Yeah, on the wooden board, and then you
Yes.
scrape it off. Yep.
I would love to do that. And now I have my own home and I have the room for it.
Mhm.
It's just
It's
a
a lot
lot
of
of
work.
things were hindered since before I even bought my home. Like, I've been going through this all my life, but it really started to get bad in like 2011, 2012.
Your health.
Yeah. Like,
But apparently they didn't even tell you what you had. You didn't even know what you had.
we didn't even know what I had at
Right.
the time. They kept on looking in my stomach instead of seeing what was going on in my intestines.
Right.
So basically, I would be working 14 to 16 hours a day, on call for 24. And in between the calls, because I was a roadside manager, I would do the call, go to the next block after the call, throw up, and literally go through my calls throughout the day. For like 2 years, I was doing that. I couldn't do it no more. Wound up admitted in the emergency room. My intestines almost blew up, almost died. Like,
Wow.
just crazy shit, you know? So, you know, God delays you for good reasons. Because if I did not take the route that God has given me, I wouldn't be here today on multiple levels. I wouldn't probably be sitting here. I would still be trying to figure out things in my own way instead of just letting it go and giving it to God, you know? So I don't.
It's one of those things you say, and you know, and I say too, like if I wouldn't have met my wife at the time that I did,
Yes.
God knows what I would have been, because I
Yeah.
knew what I was
What you were doing.
in. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
with the crap you used to do when you were young, you were dumb.
Yeah, yeah.
So
absolutely.
and I know you told me some of your history and where you lived wasn't a great place, and growing up with them, God knows where it would have led you to.
Anybody that knows Staten Island knows there's two sides.
The jerk off side, and then the
No. Oh, no.
A little deeper than that.
No. And all joking aside, because
What is that? Tell me.
the South Shore gets heat, and the reason why the South Shore gets heat is because they say everybody there is entitled. That's where the
Money?
most
Is that what it is?
Italians are. They're racist over there. I lived over there for 4 years, in my whole entire life while I was living in Staten Island. And it's the same. Honestly, it's obviously better because you don't have to deal with a lot of shit that I was dealing with on the North Shore. But, it's the same type of people.
Yeah.
Like the South Shore gets a bad rap because they have nice things, if that makes sense.
Is that what it is? The North Shore is just known for money?
Everybody's driving their mothers or fathers
Mercedes?
BMW.
Audi or the Infinity. The Infinity that's like the Staten Island car, the big fucking Infinity. Everybody loved that. But to me, it's like, how could you be mad because their parents got more and gave their children? Like, I can't be mad at that. That's like,
Because if you had it, you would
because
probably
I would do the same for my children. Where I grew up was what they like to call the lower income ghetto area. Like, people that know Staten Island know that I lived on Castleton and State Street. You can't really get much closer to the lower income area than the projects that were right across the street. You know what I mean?
Other than living in them.
Yeah. Like, I was born in Manus Harbor on South Avenue, literally right before the overpass. That's not really the nicest area. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would not change a thing of what I went through. I got my respect. The people that I was with, they were good people for me or whatever. But overall, that shit sucks.
But
I would never want to go back there again.
Is it still like that today?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let me ask you this one. So you're saying that, these people who drive their parents' car, they got the thing. Do you see the entitlement?
Yeah, but I also understand why they got the entitlement. Because at the end of the day, their parents built them up to be that way.
Okay.
Because, like with all of our parents, they love us to death. They want us to do good. And if they got, funds, they're going to spend it on us. So they build up their kids on multiple levels. Financially, usually, they live with their parents until their 20s. 30s. They still got that, tightness about them. Poor as no Diddy. You know what I mean? So,
Little Diddy.
How could, tiny Diddy.
Tiny Diddy.
Right?
You said Italian, did he?
Guido Diddy.
Where's the
Poor as
baby
no
oil?
Diddy. No, but, so I can't be mad. When I was younger, when I was like 17, 18 years old, yes, I was like, fuck that. Like, get the fuck out of here. Silver spoon, this and that. But as you get older, you realize you can never be mad at somebody that was treated the way they deserve to be treated. Because if I was in that situation with my mother would treat me like that too.
Right.
My mother would get me the Infinity. My mother would have got me this and got me that. She would have spoiled us fucking rotten. We would have been the most arrogant little jerk-offs in Staten Island.
So you're saying the North Shore of Staten Island used to always battle its own Staten Island just because South and North?
To be honest with you, North Shore and South Shore, there was never a battle.
It was just...
They just knew what they were.
When you live on Staten Island, if you come from the North Shore, a lot of people believe, oh, it's a bunch of Italian rich people over there that don't like anybody but Italians. That's usually what you
it's
get.
It's like the Howard Beach.
Yes, basically.
I got you.
But in all actuality, the North Shore has a ton of Italian people too.
Right.
I forgot what it's called, the Italian Society Club or something like that. That's on the North Shore. My uncle was actually in that. My uncle was a judge in Staten Island. So he was in that. A bunch of my family members. So it's older because there's more history there.
Mm-hmm.
The South Shore is like the fucking east end of Long Island almost.
Yeah, that feast that we did last year in Staten Island was in the North Shore. It was jam-packed.
Yes.
Yeah.
You understand? So there's a difference. And don't get me wrong, the South Shore will definitely show out for the Italian people. There's I think the island is 38% Italian still. Still a big portion. But a big portion of that is the South Shore. They get a bad rap because they got money and they were spoiled. But in all actuality, how could you be mad? Now, I'm grateful with how I was, brought up because it humbles you real quick.
Yeah. But I think that's where the problem is. I don't think it's the fact that people have the money or have the car or giving it to them. It's how they act. It's because, like you just said it yourself, you're a humble guy now because you didn't have much, but because you have shit, that doesn't mean that you should be less of a humble person. You should be as you said yourself, the best person that you can be.
Absolutely.
So the money shouldn't be that fucking factor.
Absolutely.
So when you're a piece of shit because you have X, Y, and Z, that's on you. That. I think that's where the problem starts.
In my point, to a degree.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is because of this. If you are raised a certain way
Mm-hmm.
and you're spoiled and everything like that, yes, as you get older, you should learn, not everybody is like this. Not everybody got it like that. But what I learned is people learn to become humble through humbling experiences. So I was always humble, but I was always very confident in who I was with anything. I feel like I could do it the best. But I also know that you can't be a cocky jerk off about it. So I feel through life
Sometimes
experience.
it's okay.
Yeah. A little
what
bit,
it is.
to have that Mamba mentality or
Once in
Jordan
a while,
mentality.
you deserve the spoil,
Yeah, of course. Yes, you got to give yourself flowers. But in the same sense, you got to realize that everybody else deserves their flowers too. So if I see something that somebody did, I don't even have to barely know them. Or if I, like, for instance, there's people that I don't even follow that I jump into their DMs because I give them advice. Take it, leave it, think I'm a fucking jerk off, a weirdo, a wacko, I don't care. But I felt at that moment that I should give you that, especially for a lot of these people, because they're younger. I'm 40, almost about to be 41 in September. So a lot of these kids are like in their 20s, early 30s. So if I see something that I went through, my first initial response is to reach out to try to help. Maybe they don't have to go through exactly what I went through if they listen a little bit to what I've been through. So, that really is what's important to me. It's not, yes, views are great. You know that, Frank. I tell you this all the time. Views are great. People following me. I love it. But I want to actually make a difference in people's lives. It's not just about me. It's more or less about how I could help somebody, whether it's bringing, most importantly, God into their life, making them laugh a little bit, keeping them informed. That's why I do a little bit of everything. Showing them the real parts of life. Me being in the hospital, tubes in my nose, down my throat, tubes in my stomach, ileostomy bag. Because if I could do it, you could do it. And if I got through it, you could get through it. And if you think you can't get through it, hit me up and we'll get through that shit together. You know what I mean? So that's really what it's about to me. I don't have to know you. I don't have to talk to you. If you ever hit me up and you're like, hey, listen, this is what I'm going through. Do you have any advice on it? 100%. I'm going to tell you like if I was telling my brother or a close friend,
See, the flip side to that is there's more of the opposite of that on social media today.
Yeah.
Than there is, I guess, I'll call them the legit, honest people who just want to either have fun with it or do want to reach out and be inspiring to other people. But that would have been my next question. Like, obviously, you've come across all types of people.
Yeah.
What is your opinion how social media is being handled today by certain people?
I think that social media is good for only so long. I don't care who you are. If you don't pivot yourself and constantly transform yourself, you're going to get left behind. Because we all have this ability where we can just keep scrolling. So if you can't keep somebody's attention,
For the first 3 seconds.
you're done. So for me, it's more or less, I learned, keep yourself real through it all.
Mhm.
Because there's a lot of fake shit on the internet. A lot of people want to show you the highlights. They want to show you, I'm a fucking baller, I'm a this, I got that, I got this. When in all actuality, they're probably in fucking debt and they don't even know where the next move is coming from.
They're living with their mom still.
Exactly. So what I'm trying to do is be that slice of reality in like a fantasy world. Because everybody thinks what they see. Like, I had a comment a couple of days ago. Oh, God bless you, because everybody knows of my stomach issues. Oh, God bless you. How could you eat that? Because I posted up a video of cooking French toast that was from 4 years ago.
Yeah, you just made me trigger something.
You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're thinking I'm over here eating like some fucking unhealthy gavone when in all actuality, that morning, all I had was yogurt, coconut oil, cinnamon, and the most unhealthy thing was a canned peach.
Right. That's
You know what I mean?
That's why not too long ago, I don't know if you guys remember, I posted something like social media is the land of make-believe.
Exactly.
And sometimes people believe everything they see.
Exactly.
And look, it happens. And sometimes it's close friends of mine, and I laugh about it.
Yeah.
Because I'll post something that I just came across. You know, either it's a sunset,
Yeah.
or if it's a party I was at, or whatever it is. So I'm like, oh, let me just put this back up.
Why didn't you let me come with you? Oh, I didn't. Yep.
They thought I went out partying, and you didn't call me.
Yeah.
Oh, you went out to eat? You didn't tell me.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, the picture's like 3 years old. Relax.
I'm fucking nibbling on a cracker right now. I don't got no pizza in my hand from the review, you know? Like, a lot of people don't. You know what it is? A lot of people are caught up on the me. Why wasn't it me for this? Or why didn't this person invite me to that?
Mhm.
Remember, everything that is set for you comes from God. So nobody could ever take it away. And I think that's a lot of people's problems. They think they see somebody's video blowing up, it's going to take away from their video. When in all actuality, it has nothing to fucking do with your video.
But that's narcissism, bro.
But
That's narcissistic
But that's
ways
what
of
I'm
thinking.
trying to say. My whole point of it is that if you worry about you,
Yeah.
you become what you want. When you're worrying about everybody else, number one, you look like some fucking weirdo. You look like a hater, because usually you are hating at that time. And then on top of it, you're not doing anything positive for yourself.
It brings you down.
Yeah, so why not work on yourself and get you to that point? Because in my opinion, the main plug is God. If you're connected with God, whatever is sought out for you is going to be there. You just have to move towards the direction that he wants you to move in. Nobody could take that from you. There's not, like, for instance, if it's me, you, and myself. If you blow up, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to blow up. And if I blow up, that doesn't mean Frank is not going to blow up. Everybody's different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there is a lot of people with the constant fucking over-exaggerating everything. And you would have thought people were from the fucking hills of Napoli or some shit. But in all actuality, by you not being you is the reason why you're not blowing up. You know what I mean?
Well, I think I always told everybody, being a character is cool.
Yeah.
People could fall in love with the character. But nothing is better when someone just falls in love with the actual you.
Amen.
Because then you don't have to act.
Yeah, you're just you.
Amen. It's too much work to be somebody else.
It
Why
is.
not just be you and see where it goes? You know what I mean?
I mean, some people are good at what they do. Don't get me wrong.
Absolutely. And some people are born to do that.
Right.
That's the thing. Some people are born to do that. But then you see everybody else trying to do the same fucking thing and they wonder why it's not
great.
working. It's not
fucking great.
working because it's that man's recipe or that woman's recipe. You're over here trying to make a recipe and you don't even know the ingredients for it.
Well, Well, that's
You know?
You're trying to be the
that's-
person that everybody wants
So
you
that's
to be.
the thing that I'm going through right now is I look at, on feeds.
Yeah.
And sometimes people come up and I feel like, why is this guy trying so hard? Or
You know-
why is he trying to be like this guy? Like,
You know what I don't like? I don't like the fake friend shit.
Oh yeah.
And what I mean by that is somebody comes out of the blue and wants to become your best friend. You don't want to fucking be my best friend. You just want me to post up on my shit to try to get your shit moving. Which is fine, but come straight up and tell me. Don't pretend. Listen, I see through it like a fucking, like if it was clear.
Yeah.
I see right through that shit. So I purposely don't. If you notice, do I ever hit anybody up for collabs or anything like that?
No.
I feel if somebody likes it enough, they'll reshare it. I'm not in nobody's shit like, yo, please look out for my shit, da-da-da. Because at the end of the day, when you get to that point, everybody, you want genuine people to want to reshare your shit because they want to reshare it. Not because 10 people are resharing it for you because you're telling them to.
Right.
I have no problem helping people, put comments underneath their stuff or whatever. But don't think you're going to sit here because I'm a nice person and you're going to try to use me.
Right.
Because you have a better chance of jerking off the devil before you could ever do that. You know what I mean?
Sounds like fire.
Your hand will be mighty hot because it ain't happening, So, especially when it comes to, I've busted my ass and I don't even have 100,000 followers yet, but I busted my ass for the followers that I got.
And that's my case all the time. And some people take it that I'm becoming an asshole. But it's like, I didn't ask for help.
No.
Right? I didn't ask people to collab with me. I just did it.
You just did it.
And now, and I think you guys know me best. I'll help as much as I can.
Yeah.
But stop with the taking advantage of.
Yeah, and on top of that, listen. Would these people be in your DMs like that if you had 200 followers?
No.
No, so who the fuck are you? If I don't know you personally, or if I didn't build a relationship, a friendship, or relationship, or whatever you want to call it with you, don't ask me for friend favors.
Joe,
I don't know you.
And this is what circles on in that
And if I
platform.
don't know you, you know how you get to know me? By paying me. Because I don't know you from a hole in the wall. So right now, we are on business time. If you want me to help you with anything, fine. If you want me to talk to you, I would never deny that. But if you're trying to build yourself up and you're asking me to do it, you can't expect me to do it when I don't know you from a fucking can of paint. This is a business when it comes to certain aspects.
And then they twist it as, oh, you're not supportive.
No, I'm not supportive. You want to know why? Because if I was in the same boat, you wouldn't give two fucks about me.
Right.
You wouldn't answer my DM. I answer anybody's DM. Sometimes it takes a couple of days because I'm legit doing a lot of shit, but I always answer my DMs. Always. It doesn't matter who it is. It could be somebody with 2 followers, but I'll always try to answer my DMs. The people that I got close to, I always answer them. But if you're over here trying to tell me, hey, can you do me a favor and share this and share that? No, because I don't even know who you are. You could be some fucking rapist pedophile. I have no idea. You see what's going on with Epstein?
You're gonna show up on the
take
files.
You take one picture with somebody and it's a wrap. Or you have one conversation with somebody and it's a wrap.
I was cleared by MC Files. I wasn't found.
So was I. Absolutely. 200%. You know what I
Don't
mean?
go to page 200.
That motherless fuck wasn't even allowed on Staten Island, that fucking weirdo.
Don't go to page
Don't
200.
go to page 200.
200? Oh, God.
His real name is
That shit who was in the dentist chair over there at that island.
his real name was Marcus Horsey.
But that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Don't come to me acting like you're my best friend when you don't even know my fucking middle
Well, you're
name.
dealing with sick people, Joe. These are people who are not okay. You're dealing with people who already have problems, and this is just an open way
Yeah.
for them to actually get in contact with people. through that.
True. This
So
is
it
true.
it gives them more access to your eyes and you that you would have given somebody in the street because they had to physically
And
be
it's
there.
not because I wouldn't help anyone.
No, it's not about that.
But you have a motive coming to me.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Most people
It's-
do.
It's like you're mad because I caught your shit
Yeah.
before you could play me. Be mad
They make
because you
you-
can't do nothing
Then
about
they
it.
make you feel like the victim.
No, they don't make me. You know what I do? If it's somebody that does that, I don't even answer them.
Mm.
I don't even answer them. What are you gonna get mad? Get mad. What are you gonna do to me?
Cry in a corner.
You know what I mean? Like I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
You know how many people I get piss people off on a daily basis? There's tons of them. You know, when you speak the truth, that's what happens. A lot of people don't like it, but the ones that hear it and understand it respect you for it.
Yeah.
So I would rather be respected by 3 lying than fucking 100 sheep. You know? Same thing with the whole, and I'm gonna go there with the whole rat situation. I will never fucking talk to a rat. And the reason why I'll never talk to a rat is because one, you did your friends and the closest people that you had dirty. So how the fuck could I ever trust you? It's not about a code of the street. I don't give a fuck about any of that. And even though I grew up partially about that type of shit with my friends or whatever, it's the moral of the story is you cannot be trusted.
You're right.
So how could I fuck with you?
Right.
You know what I mean? So for me, there was one of those, I'm not even gonna mention the person, hit me up on my DM, like, hey, would you want? No, I would not. Didn't even respectfully, didn't even reply to the person. Because at the end of the day, you don't give a fuck about me.
Right.
You're gonna do that grimy shit that you did to people that you really cared about twice as worse to me if we ever get into a situation. I want to know if I'm hanging out with somebody that if something happens, God forbid, you're not going to take off or you're not going to fucking sit here and try to rat somebody out that stood on business.
What's your thought on this? Because, I mean, I don't know if it's a sensitive subject because everybody gets a fucking hemorrhoid, but why suddenly I feel like the mafia, the gangsters, the rats, they just openly talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
And they call other people rats.
They're reporting everything.
like, what's going on?
And they call other
Back
people
in
rats.
2016,
When I stayed
I was with fucking Timmy the Tooth, and we went to the Cross Bronx Expressway and we killed fucking
like, what is going on? Like,
Jimmy the Bear. Like, first of all, what are you even mentioning that for? Number one.
This is a cake commercial.
Oh well, because they're dead now, so nobody can be brought up on. You're ratting. I don't care.
Yeah, but
whatever
because-
goes on between you and whatever you were doing with somebody else.
I just feel like regardless if you ratted, regardless if you did your time,
how are you acting like some big ass mobster when you ratted, and you're still
you know what I'm saying? Like,
the
I just
Omerta code. You broke it.
I just feel like it was such a respected, secret, underground thing back then. No matter if you did
But
rat,
things are
And if you
different
want me to be
now.
honest, I think it's a respected, secret, underground thing now. It's just all the people that turned a lot of the mafia into shit are out there talking shit. There's all legit. Out of all the people, and that person, and he don't even talk like that. The only person that's online that's, in my opinion, the real deal would be Skinny Joey, because he literally lives by what he says. He does not take a shortcut. He did all his time. He did all of that shit. So he could talk about real life experiences, and he knows how to speak about it without getting anybody in trouble. These other people are dropping names
Yes.
just to get a following.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I killed this one with Gotti, and I did this one with
or they're starting. I love, again, dropping no names. They're sending reels, starting beef, calling people out. If I catch you, like, what are we doing here?
the
Like,
only
who's doing
high
this?
school.
the worst person, in my opinion, the worst person you could ever have a problem with is somebody that's working with the police.
Mm.
That's the worst person you could ever deal with. And there's reasons for that. Because one, they get a lot of leeway. They could literally go in front of your house, threaten you, talk shit, act like they're gonna do something, and the minute you do something, guess what? You get picked up and they don't. And they got that free pass where they could literally like almost trick you into getting yourself into
They goat
trouble.
you in it, yeah.
Yeah, because I literally seen it, like before in the past. Like real life experience. I seen a low life like that. Literally talking shit to my family and friends on the porch.
Yep.
Threatening them, right? But we see 2 blocks down the cop sitting there waiting for somebody to do something so they could come pull up and take you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the worst person. Because at the end of the day, they get a pass to try to hurt you. And if you go retaliate, they fucking lock you up for it.
And you got a phrase for that. You call them what? Motherless bastards.
Fucking motherless fucks. Loser, low life, motherless fucks. And that's the truth. And I'm not sitting here like I'm some tough guy. I'm far from a tough guy. I knew a couple of friends that were really tough. I stood up for myself and for my friends. That's how it was. No, this and that and that and this. It's just when you're raised in like the hood, basically, you go through some of the codes that other people go through. Rats are the lowest things you can deal with. Blah, blah, blah. There's always drugs involved, all crazy shit. But you literally see when you're growing up, like, there's people that will literally get locked up and they're out the next day. And then 3 days later, the biggest drug dealer's house is getting raided. How the fuck is that happening? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to bring it to anything. I was selling a little weed back in the day, right? You're talking about when, if you had weed on you, they would treat it like it was heroin.
Yeah.
So I'm over there. I go to Port Richmond. I was doing three dimes for $20. So that was a good deal back in the day. You got 3 dimes of some real legit, it was Kush at the time, for $20.
Yeah.
I'm doing whatever I had to do. 1 week I go there, give it to this guy, and nobody knows where I hid my shit. I leave him, get around the block, cops pull me over, search my whole entire car. When I used to sell a little bit, I never brought anything that wasn't what it was. Like if you asked for 3 things, that's all I put. That's it. There was no extra in my car for another sale or anything like that. So when I left the person, there was nothing in my car. Right. So they searched my car. I got searched 3 times in 1 week. I cut everything off. That was the end of it. I got rid of the stuff that I had and never did it again. Because I knew somebody was actively telling them, because nobody knew I was doing it other than a few people.
Mm-hmm.
You search me 3 times in 1 week,
something's up.
Something's going on.
Then you got to revisit your people that you had close by.
Listen, and that's how you know there's a couple of people that are jealous because
you weren't kidding though, like how your life's changed.
Yeah.
You right?
Yeah, but I don't like to talk about stupid shit like that because at the end of the day, it wasn't to the extreme. I was just doing it as a little side hustle.
Bullshit stuff.
Yeah, like compared to a couple of my other friends, definitely. And I always was the voice of reason for all my friends. If we had to go do something, you go do it, whatever the case may be. But I always try to keep my friends out of trouble. It just happens, You're not going to back away from nothing in life. Yep. And you're definitely going to stick with your friends. So, yeah, I sold a little bit of weed or whatever the case may be. But it wasn't anything to where, like, I locked the whole fucking neighborhood down or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I was just having fun with it,
Joey got that good parsley.
Well, to be honest with you, I know for a fact that I had the best sour diesel on the island. That I know.
Nice.
That I know.
Nice.
A cold-hearted fact. So I can't really say why, but I know that. But other than that,
I think Joey was Denzel Washington in Training Day in his neighborhood. That's
Well, they say I'm black from the waist down. No, but seriously, you just learn through life, and a lot of people don't understand that once it's over, it's over. Don't go back to try to reliving those glory days, because all you do is put yourself in the same cycle over and over again. You know, like we as people are supposed to evolve. We're not supposed to stay in the same place all of our life. And I don't mean physically, I mean mentally. We're supposed to evolve to be better people, to want to be a better person. And I feel that people get stuck in the same
Loop. Yep.
over and over again, you know?
So Joey, before we wrap this up,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you something, that if you could take a look at your camera, and if you had to tell the viewers here something that inspired you, or something that you learned in life, or something you could coach us with, what would you tell them?
I would tell you to just be you. That's the most important thing. Just be you. The world has already a Hungry Guido, Frank, a Marco, a this or that, but the world brought you here for you to be you. So don't get yourself caught up on something that looks like might be the motion at that moment, because remember, the motion is going to slow down and stop, but you are always going to be you. So when you invite people into your life, invite the right ones into your life, and always be genuine and positive, and it always works out for you.
Joey, I can't thank you enough for coming on with us.
Thank you,
Finally,
guys.
It's been
we
good.
got you on the couch.
I'm so happy.
And we made it through the end.
And I think I want to take, yeah, right? Fucking 20 minutes into it the last time I was blowing up your bathroom.
For the last time, just look at the camera and let everybody know where they could find you.
You could find me at the Hungry Guido. So that would be the_Hungry_Guido. And that's on TikTok. That's on Instagram, Facebook, and also YouTube.
And your sister's ass.
And your mother's ass.
There you go. Your motherless ass.
Your motherless ass.
But there you have it, everyone. Joey, thanks again.
Thank you.
I hope you guys enjoyed it. Marco, Joey,
Thank
good
you,
night,
guys.
everybody.
God bless.